coming up on Arirang News. Samsung Electronics posts profits for 2020 up from the year before by 29.5% with a big boost in the fourth quarter. LG Electronics looking at both record high sales and profit. Samsung and LG will be front and center next week at the Consumer Electronics Show, the biggest tech event of the year. This year's CES, though, will only be online. And South Korea continues to experience extreme cold. Today, Seoul recorded its lowest temperature in 35 years at minus 18.6 degrees. Roads around the country are still iced over. It's 5 o'clock p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. South Korea is experiencing record-breaking cold this week. Wednesday brought heavy snow to the Seoul area, causing traffic chaos, and in many parts of the city, the roads are still frozen. According to the forecast in Seoul, it's not going to get above zero until next week. There was a fair amount of snow today on the southern island of Jeju as well. Ji-young has the details.
A frigid blast of cold air straight from the Arctic has slammed into South Korea, bringing with it the coldest weather of the winter season so far. As of 7 a.m. Friday, the Korean Meteorological Administration had issued cold wave warnings for most of the nation. The temperature in Seoul is expected to be around negative 18 degrees Celsius on Friday, a low not seen in 5 years. Accounting for the wind chill, it'll feel more like minus 25. Southern parts of the nation, including the west coast of Jeollanam-do province and the southern island of Jeju, have also seen heavy snow as well as sub-freezing temperatures. Mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province are forecast to see the mercury dip to negative 30 degrees Celsius on Friday.
The cold wave will peak from Friday to Saturday, combined with strong winds. Some parts of the country will see temperatures drop to minus 20 degrees Celsius.
With the unprecedented cold wave, nationwide electric power demand has reached an all-time high. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy said the highest electric power demand was reached on Thursday afternoon, topping 90 million kilowatts, and the record is forecast to be broken again on Friday. The ministry said it'll relax the upper bound constraint of coal power plants so it can cope with the uptick in demand. Ji-young, Arirang News.
The South Korean health authorities say the country's third wave of COVID-19 has passed its peak, now that the average number of daily cases has fallen to around 700. On Friday, there were 674 new cases. There were 35 deaths, raising the death toll to 1,081. The authorities are urging people not to let down their guard because it's still winter, which helps the virus spread. And there are also the new COVID-19 variants. So far, South Korea has reported 15 cases of the variant from the UK and a single case of the South Africa one. There continues to be a major cluster at the Seoul Dongbu Detention Center. Until now, newly arriving inmates have been isolated for 14 days and then tested. But now they're going to be tested right when they arrive. A court in Seoul has ordered the Japanese government to compensate 12 South Koreans victimized by Japan's system of sexual slavery during World War II. In Friday's ruling, the Seoul Central District Court ordered Tokyo to pay around $92,000 per person for their mental distress and financial losses. It acknowledged that Japan either deceived or forced the victims into what were referred to as comfort stations during its colonial rule over Korea. The case was brought in 2016 after Japan ignored the court's correspondence in a compensation claim filed 3 years earlier. The verdict is the first regarding a civil lawsuit against Tokyo filed by the victims of the so-called comfort women system. In response, Japan's foreign ministry summoned the South Korean ambassador in Tokyo to lodge a complaint. The two big South Korean tech giants, Samsung Electronics and LG Electronics, have released their preliminary earnings for 2020, showing a surge in both profits and revenues. For Samsung, it was display panels, TVs, and tablet devices. For LG, the boost came from home appliances. Pae-eun-ji reports.
South Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics performed solidly last year. The company announced Friday that its operating profits from 2020 are estimated to be around $33 billion, up 29.5% compared to the previous year. Annual revenue stood at $215.9 billion, marking the third highest following 2017 and 2018. This was largely due to price increases to display panels and high demand for tablet PCs and TVs, as more people stayed home because of the pandemic. Samsung also said its fourth quarter profit for last year is projected to be up 25.7% on year. This is lower than the third quarter's figures as the price of semiconductors fell and the dollar weakened against the Korean won, but higher than that of the same period the previous year. Solid figures are expected for the first quarter of this year as well.
The price of semiconductors fell during the fourth quarter of 2020, but it started to rebound in December, and this is expected to continue in January and February of this year as well. So sales are expected to grow in 2021.
Another of the country's tech giants, LG Electronics, reported on Friday that its annual operating profits for 2020 are expected to reach an all-time high at over 3 trillion Korean won, or roughly $2.7 billion. As for the fourth quarter of last year, the company estimates profits to increase by more than 500%, standing at nearly $600 million. This is the highest fourth quarter figures that the company has seen so far. The record high numbers are attributed to a boost in demand for home appliances such as steam clothing care systems and washing machines. The full earnings of both companies are to be released later this month. 배은지, Arirang News.
South Korean auto giant Hyundai Motor has confirmed that it's in talks with Apple to possibly produce an Apple car. That was confirmed Friday by a Hyundai spokesperson who said that Apple is in discussions with several global automakers and Hyundai Motor is one of them. The spokesperson cautioned, however, that nothing has been decided and the discussions are still in their early stages. Shares of Hyundai Motor today surged almost 19.5%, while those of its sister company Kia jumped by almost 8.5%. The South Korean government is going to spend 1.4 trillion won, or about $1.3 billion to subsidize purchases of electric and hydrogen-powered vehicles as part of the Moon administration's push for a greener economy. Finance Minister Hong Nam-gi said Friday that the government will aim to boost purchases of these vehicles this year by 32% compared to last year. The size of the subsidies will vary depending on the price of the car, though, with no aid for cars priced at over 90 million won, or about $82,000. The finance minister also said that the country will double its support for electric trucks, which will have a better impact on the environment. The world's most influential event in the tech industry is coming up next week, the Consumer Electronics Show. Normally drawing huge crowds to a venue in Las Vegas, this year it's going all digital. Min Soo-kyun reports.
CES 2021 is set to kick off next week. The tech event will run from January 11 to 14th and feature products from nearly 2,000 companies. About 340 South Korean firms will be there showing off their latest innovations. That includes tech giants such as Samsung and LG Electronics, as well as small and medium-sized enterprises. This year's event is going completely online, and event organizers expect a larger global audience as attendees tune in from all over the world. On the first day, called Media Day, world's leading tech brands will host press conferences for the media, and on the following days, exhibitors will showcase their latest products through online demos and presentations. At the digital venue, registered users will get the personal experience they need by receiving recommendations based on their topics of interest. They'll have access to exhibitions and over 100 conference sessions, and many presentations will also be available with captions in 16 languages. The pandemic has accelerated innovation across a range of industries. The president and CEO of the Consumer Technology Association says that health technology and gadgets related to home and home offices are among the top trends to watch at CES 2021.
We will see obviously a great focus on healthcare technology, but also a focus on broadband and things you can do for your home, not only for your home office to make it better, but also everything in your home that has to do with technology.
After the 4-day expo, the digital venue will be live for another 30 days until February 15th. There, attendees will have a chance to further explore products and interact with the exhibitors online, giving ample business opportunities for companies as well as an engaging digital experience for users. Min Suk-hyun, Arirang News.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news on this Friday. And for that, I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, global strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, thank you for coming on today.
Good afternoon.
Well, investors on Wall Street were relieved on Thursday when Congress certified the election of Joe Biden as president, getting rid of the uncertainty there. Stocks up quite a bit, the Dow breaking 31,000. What's the story in the global markets?
Right. If you look at the blue wave victory by the Democrats, people were concerned that the possibility of tax rate hike for the corporates could happen, and that has resulted into a bit of a correction on the day before. But yesterday, the market actually recovered quite significantly. And the reason for that is because continued boosting measure to allow the economic growth rate to recover, and quite a bit of a fiscal policy and monetary policy will continue, resulting into the economic recovery. And if that's the case, people are thinking that the overall equity market can go up further. Also, in terms of raising taxes, because it is only about 51 to 50 for the Senate in favor of Democrat, it might be difficult to pass any kind of tax rate hike immediately, and therefore the concern is limited in terms of the large cap stocks. Of course, there's still concern about the overall the antitrust laws, but all in all, we think that the boosting measure is greater than the uncertainty at this point in time. So that has resulted into Dow rising by 0.7%, S&P rising by 1.5%, and NASDAQ climbed by 2.6%.
And in Korea today, an incredible surge on the Kospi of almost 4%. It blew through 3,100 points, obviously yet another new high. The Kosdaq was actually down a little. Tell us about the local markets.
Right. It seems that the major net buying was actually occurring through the foreign investors. And foreign investors actually bought more than 1.4 trillion won worth of Korean equities, particularly focused into the Hyundai Motors and the Samsung Electronics, the major large cap stocks. We think that right now what's happening in Korea is the Nifty 50 effect, where the major global competitive industry leaders, such as Samsung Electronics, LG Chemical, Hyundai Motors, and et cetera, all these companies seems to be gaining market shares, and there's quite a bit of the positive news coming through where the earnings and sales growth is happening while the global economy is actually declining in terms of the size. So all in all, the valuation looks good, the growth is there, and therefore the foreign investors are net buyer of the Korean market. On top of that, there's a huge amount of liquidity lying around right now that the local investors are actually piling into the equity market. The customer deposit has reached almost close to 70 trillion won, which we never seen in the past. And some people are estimating that number might rise to as high as 100 trillion won within this year. If that's the case, the Kospi can go up even further. We were estimating that the fair value of Kospi to be around 3,300, but of course, always the market can overshoot. And if you see the actual earnings growth happening, then that could have a quite positive implication for overall market.
Well, now we see the Korean currency trading now above 1,090 to the dollar. That's up a bit from its strongest point at the end of last year. What do you see happening with the exchange rate?
Yes, if you look at the overall currency-wise, right now the Korean won has depreciated somewhat to about 1090 level. All in all, if you look at the last year, the currency was continued to appreciate because of the foreigners are coming back to the market, and also the U.S. dollar was depreciating. However, though, if you look at the overall consumers, the debt to GDP ratios, it is hitting over 100%. That is our concern at this point in time. If you see the economic recovery happening and then interest rate rises, then the fundamental of the consumer could be quite negative. And that's why people are quite concerned about the Korean won movement. But overall, if you look at the current account surpluses and the imports and export, the trade trade surpluses, the downward pressure for the Korean won, meaning that appreciating further is actually higher than this uncertainty regarding the consumer debt. So we think that the overall Korean won will remain where it is, the range bound anywhere between 1050 to 1100 over the next 1 year.
Got it. All right, we'll have to leave it there for today. Mr. Yu, thanks for coming on and have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. You too.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.